I'm a mother of 3 daughters, all of which were breastfed. And I have to say it was definitely hard for me because I didn't know then what I know now. And I think preparation is really, really important for new moms that are about to breastfeed a new baby. So prior to having the baby, getting to know a lactation specialist, going to support groups, being okay with touching your breasts and learning how to hand express and getting as much information as possible ahead of time is really important so that you know what's normal and you're more confident to be able to call people that you know, going to visit support groups, La Leche Elite groups, or anyone in your area that is a breastfeeding support person is really, really important.
I think it's our obligation to let all moms and also families know that breastfeeding is the best thing that they can do for their babies. And we want to educate them and give them the best evidence there is and help them make their own decision.
First of all, having a plan and knowing what you want to do, and having your own individual plan to get the information in advance, to talk with your healthcare professionals, talk with your family members especially, because once the baby's born, that support is going to be really critical.
I think a lot of times people talk about how it's just natural, things happen naturally. And although breastfeeding is natural, there's nothing else in our life that we do, and the first time it goes 100%. Learning to walk takes us a year. There's a lot of things that we do that we have to practice to get really good at, and I wish I had known that going into it. At the first few weeks we stumbled a few times, but it was definitely a great experience. I met a lot of people along the way that made it so much easier. I wish I had connected with them earlier because I think it would have gone even better.
I absolutely recommend breastfeeding. There are lots of benefits for both the mom and the baby. For the mom, it takes less time because you don't have to prepare formula in the middle of the night for a hungry baby. It's more affordable, it doesn't cost anything, and it's really beneficial for bonding with your baby. It's a wonderful aid for that. For the baby, some of the benefits include having lower risk for ear infections, having lower risk for diabetes and asthma, as well as obesity later in life, and also just having that time with the baby's mother.
Hello, my name is Lauren and this is Evelyn and Grayson. They're 14 months old and they are breastfed. Our breastfeeding journey started before they were delivered. We went to some breastfeeding classes here at the hospital, and I was determined to be able to succeed even though they were twins. That was a challenge I was prepared to overcome. So I had the determination, but I really needed the support and the education.
And creating a network of people who can support and help you when things get tough are really critical pieces of being as prepared as possible and getting your breastfeeding relationship off to its best start. It's important to know where to find qualified lactation care if you're facing challenges. And I just want to say so many of my clients have told me that breastfeeding was the most fulfilling thing that they've ever done in their lives.
We were able to just exclusively breastfeed, so that was a huge accomplishment, but I could not have done it by myself. So I just have to say that it gets easier, it gets better, and it's totally worth it.
As a WIC nutritionist, I know that skin to skin is very important because it helps with breastfeeding and it helps to calm and soothe an unsettled baby. After my daughter was born, the nurses placed her on my chest and we did skin to skin. That was a beautiful moment for me because she latched right on.
I encourage our moms to do skin to skin once they have their babies. I find moms that do skin to skin have a successful breastfeeding experience when they're in the hospital and also when they're at home.
My first daughter came out 3 hours after I arrived at the hospital, which was a shock. She was placed right on my chest, and within 3 minutes or so, she was breastfeeding. Her instinctual needs to suck just kicked right in as soon as we were skin to skin, and we remained as if she were still inside of me. And she breastfed for about 1.5 years to almost 2 years after.
So really, when I think about my role and how I support breastfeeding, I really am a voice for the baby. I am continually telling parents and educating them about how babies learn through their nonverbal communication. They need their 5 senses. They need to be skin to skin. They need to be held. They need to hear mom's voice and see their eyes. Everything that of their 5 senses is so worth it, and breastfeeding, it is just so worth anything that you go through.
One of the things that has always struck me is that when that baby is at the mother's breast and looks up at the mother's face, that is just the distance that a baby sees. And the baby's eyes look at the mother's eyes, the pupils of both become wider, and feeds into those important parts of the brain that makes us feel good and connect with each other.
It was an easier process, especially when she was born, because all the doctors automatically went skin to skin. The nurses helped out. They encouraged breastfeeding, and they actually had a consultant who tried to get her to latch quickly, and that helped me because I could comprehend in which form it was more comfortable in different positions.
Skin-to-skin contact still remains an important part of our relationship. And although she's older and she no longer breastfeeds, my neck and the upper part of my chest are her comfort zone. If she gets hurt or she's really tired, I can tell she's really upset because she always reaches to touch me on my skin.
We had a great journey, and now at 2 years we're still breastfeeding, and it's one of the best things I've ever done. It's more than just nutrition, it's a connection, a bond between us, and something I will never take for granted.
I feel like the skin-to-skin contact and breastfeeding have played an integral role in my children's emotional and physical development, and I don't know where I would be without it.
I encourage all moms to do skin to skin and to help bond with their baby.
Hi, my name is Digna, and I'm a Connecticut Week breastfeeding peer counselor. Working with pregnant moms, I encourage them to keep their babies with them at all times. This process is called rooming in.
We call it rooming in, but really it's just keeping your baby with you.
We wholeheartedly recommend it for many reasons. One of the most, I think, important is to have that time and that experience with your baby. And it's worth it.
It's an experience that cannot be replaced, because if you don't have the baby with you, you can't go out and replay those moments that you're missing, and it's a really, really amazing experience.
One of the best parts about my hospital stay was having my daughter in the room with me. I was able to see her early signs of hunger and feed her when she showed me that she was hungry.
The nurses were great about offering to let me sleep or to help me feed. A lot of people wanted to take the baby away because they thought it would be better for me, but with my daughter in the room, made breastfeeding that much easier and less of a scheduled task. It was more of a natural occurrence.
I really appreciated the nurses at the hospital when I first had my baby girl, Francine, because they really made a point of keeping the two of us together. So Francine slept right in the room with me. I was able to snuggle with her through the night, through the day, for those couple of days that I stayed at the hospital. And it helped me begin to get used to breastfeeding and just begin to get to know my daughter. So I really value the fact that I was able to spend that time with her and that she wasn't separated from me, but that she was rooming in with me.
So when you have the baby and you have them in the room, the smell of the baby is just amazing.
Reach out to find someone who can support and encourage you.
The thing I encourage dads to do is be the sort of security guard during those first few weeks, and anyone who's not helpful in that first few weeks to escort them out so that it lowers the stress level.
Dad can indirectly show that he is still involved. One of the ways could be just massaging mom, making her feel comfortable during the time of breastfeeding. Another thing would be actually getting her a glass of water. One of the other things that Dad could do is do chores.
My husband, I think he was probably my biggest source of support through it all, coaching me and encouraging me and just supporting me through it all. But each baby is very, very different. The support you get from in a hospital, your family, the community is huge. And no matter what struggles you go through, it is definitely so worth it.
Especially with the first baby, it's common that you're going to struggle for a while, and that's normal. It's so important for women to have this knowledge and to have frequent visits at the beginning so that they know that the baby is growing and gaining weight, because that's the most common concern people have is, am I making enough milk? Is my baby going to gain weight? So frequent visits at the beginning are important to just assure the mom that the baby is gaining, that things are going the way they're supposed to be going, and also if things aren't going the way they're supposed to be going, to make sure that there's an intervention before the baby's in trouble.
My name is Naomi Baryam. I am the director of the Mother's Milk Bank Northeast. Well, I'll focus on what we do at the milk bank, because really using donor milk is a very important element of breastfeeding support, and that's really what it should be. We work to help moms breastfeed their own babies so that they don't need us anymore. And we do that by making milk available in hospitals, by making milk available to moms and dads at home where mom may need it for some additional support. But we work with communities, with community breastfeeding and with hospital breastfeeding support to make sure that it really is a part of breastfeeding support rather than being another supplement.
At WIC, we truly believe that it's worth it to breastfeed. We know that breastfeeding is the optimal choice of feeding for infants. And so we provide women with the education support for them to be able to achieve their breastfeeding goals. We provide more foods to mom that choose to breastfeed, and in some locations we also offer peer support to assist the mom and encourage the mom with breastfeeding. We truly believe that it's worth it to breastfeed.
So in our breastfeeding program, we get moms referred to us from WIC while they're pregnant. And we go over a couple of things. They meet with either a peer counselor, which is a mom who has breastfed, or with me.
As a breastfeeding peer counselor, I support mothers with their interest in breastfeeding so they can get to become successful and have their experience of their own.
Coming to WIC and being informed, because I was scared I wasn't producing enough milk, and Lori always encouraged me.
The support that you get and the help that you get is just irreplaceable. Just the fact that I can call and just talk to anybody if I'm having a hard time, and they're willing to just give you the support you need. Even if you just needed someone to just say, listen, it's okay, I know what you're going through. If you need help, we have it. We can help you with what you need. Just having that is just an amazing experience.
As the president of the International Lactation Consultant Association, I've become very aware of how breastfeeding is so deeply embedded in our cultures and our beliefs and our attitudes. And that is not just something that happens outside of the United States, that's something that happens here as well. So making a plan, having people to support you or support women and families on their journey is really critical.
Those of us who work in breastfeeding spend a lot of time learning everything that is new studies, new information. We try to keep with the evidence that's out there, so that when we give information to moms, it's accurate and not based on our personal experiences.
Babies who are nursed by their moms have a much lower incidence of ear infections, viruses, allergies. There's been some studies that said there are fewer incidences of SIDS. And then there are wonderful benefits for the moms. First of all, they have an amazing bonding experience with their baby that is very, very special and really cannot be duplicated. It's your own body, and what could be better?
Women need to feel confident that in themselves and in their relationship with their newborns to kind of get through those humps. And it's easy to feel badly when it doesn't work, to feel like you're not a good mom, or your body's not working, or you're hurting your baby somehow. But we need to actually, probably more than even encourage people to breastfeed, women to breastfeed, is to encourage them to feel good about themselves and feel good about their mothering and feel good about their relationships with their babies, and empower them to see breastfeeding as an empowerment issue as well as not only a nourishment issue and the best medical decision that they can make.
I'm lucky that I was the first in my family to be successful at breastfeeding besides my mom's grandma. So out of about 5 women, a lot of them didn't have the right support and they weren't able to successfully breastfeed. And that's why I feel it's important that you have the right support in place, that you have the nurses, that you have your pediatrician, you have your husband, you have your significant other, you have your friends, your girlfriends. Everybody is there to root you on, and it's worth it.
When women don't succeed, that they feel like failures, and that's so upsetting to me, because they're not. They're trying hard, and they're getting lots of mixed messages and lack of support. And so that I think having lots of providers, from volunteers to lactation consultants to doctors and nurses, people who can really help women emotionally in terms of education and support, succeed at breastfeeding, and really value what that means to the mom.
What I love about being a lactation consultant is that I get to see moms have that moment of, wow, this is comfortable, this can feel good, this can really work. And when they really have it, all the pieces come together. Their baby's got a wonderful latch, they're feeling really, really comfortable in their body, and they've got it on so many levels. The joy of that is incredible.
What we know about breastfeeding means that it's worth it. It's worth it for our kids, it's worth it for our moms, and it's good for all of us too. So it's worth it, and it's worth us being able to support mothers from a societal standpoint. We have to value mothers and babies more because they're worth it.
We want to meet a mom where she's at. And at the end of the day, when a mom makes it through, especially when she makes it through challenges, and she gets through and feels that confidence, it's worth it to her, it's worth it to us to see it, and it's worth it for the world around her. And in general, I would say of all things in the world, breastfeeding is worth it.
Hi, I'm Catherine Bailey, and I'm the Deputy Director at the Connecticut Women's Education and Legal Fund. QWELF is a nonprofit organization dedicated to advancing opportunities and rights for women and girls. Encouraging breastfeeding moms in the workplace is really important to retain women while they're going through motherhood and that journey. In my office alone, we've had several women who are breastfeeding mothers return to work and need a place that they can express milk and be supported. And, you know, keeping those talented and skilled women in the workforce is really important because it helps our nonprofit succeed and it helps businesses in general succeed when they can retain those workers.
So mothers get a lot of conflicting information that breast is best, but everything seems stacked against them. They need to go back to work too soon. They may face challenges in their workplace, even in workplaces where there are policies to support breastfeeding. They don't always cover all employees, so we do a lot of breastfeeding promotion, but I think we could do a better job on breastfeeding support and the protection of breastfeeding as well.
For me, breastfeeding has been important from the very beginning. I didn't know what to expect or how it was really going to work for me and my family. But before I went back to work with both of my daughters, my husband and I knew that it was something that we wanted it to continue and be important for our daughter's health and for my health. So we made a plan going for when I went back to work after my maternity leave. And I spoke with my boss, and I would pump twice a day, and I was very lucky to work for a breastfeeding-friendly workplace.
We are a breastfeeding-friendly workplace, and we would encourage any workplace to be a breastfeeding-friendly workplace. It's what's right for mom and right for the baby.
It's their right when they go back to work to have a place to pump that's not a bathroom, adequate amount of time, and I make sure to tell them that they have to advocate for that right, and it's worth it for them to do that and make sure that they have their time.
The Department of Public Health has a breastfeeding website that has a lot of great resources that you should check out before you return to work. There's a document on that website called the Make It Work Breastfeeding Checklist. On that checklist, there are great resources that you can utilize in planning for your return to work, including a list of items that you'll want to pack the day before, conversations you'll want to have with your employers, as well as with your family, and also information on contacting caregivers to help support you while you breastfeed.
When I first started back at work, my baby was 5.5 months old, and I had to learn how to pump at work. It was something I had never done before. I spoke with my supervisor. She told me, when you feel like you need to pump, it's your right. You need to go do that. So I started doing that. I started leaving my pump and all the tubing connected. I brought a brush to clean everything while I was at work, and it cut down on the amount of time that I had to take out of my day, and it made me feel a little better about pumping more frequently, which ended up being better for myself, my comfort, and my baby.
My coworkers' continued support helped me meet my breastfeeding goals. It's worth it to be a working mom that breastfeeds.
I worked with my supervisor, and we made it work, and it was worth it in the end.